Make sure I do that. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, for those of you that don't know me or have never been to one of my events before, my name is Robin. I am a resiliency coach. I do a lot of work around stress and burnout and empowerment coaching. I work a lot with first responders. I'm a 911 paramedic as well here in the Portland, Multnomah County area. And then I run this business also on the side where I talk a lot about emotional resiliency and healing from burnout. And so that's what we're here to do today. I'm going to start with kind of an overview. Like I said, this is kind of a lot to cover in just an hour. And so I plan on doing some follow-up workshops on some of this stuff. So feel free to ask questions, shoot me emails if there's stuff that you want to go into more. And also for everyone that's on this call as well, I'm going to also give you guys an opportunity to shoot me an email and schedule a time to do talk about some of this stuff one-on-one if you want to, both because we're kind of short on time and I'm not going to be able to go into quite as much detail as I would like to if I was just focusing on one thing. And also, yeah, go ahead.
Do we need to take notes? I see that you're recording this.
Yeah, I'm recording it, so I'm going to email it out to everyone so you guys can watch it later.
Okay.
Want to at home or something. So yeah, it's up to you. But yeah, I just wanted to offer that to you guys. So you guys will get an opportunity to do that, either to watch this later, and also you can always email me. And if you want to go into more detail on some of this stuff one-on-one, feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to do that with you. Okay. I do have a fair amount of time open for this coming week specifically for that. So I know this is the holidays and this feels pertinent for a lot of people. So like I said, today we're going to talk about emotional resiliency. I'm going to talk about this second part. When I work with people, I kind of do this in two steps, sort of. First we talk about mastering emotional resiliency. And the reason that I start with that is because whatever it is that you're wanting in your life, if you have a dream or a goal that you're trying to accomplish, especially if it's a big goal, the hardest part is always, in my experience, it always requires emotional resiliency and fortitude. And so if we're trying to get out of debt, or if we're trying to lose a bunch of weight, or whatever it ends up being, the number one reason that people give up is oftentimes that, something comes up, it gets hard, they get discouraged, there's an obstacle, and they end up deciding like, well, maybe this wasn't a good goal, maybe this isn't the right time, whatever it is, and we end up kind of changing the goal. So whether it's a different body, a different bank account balance, if you want a new career, if you're going back to school, anyone that's done a master's degree or even a bachelor's degree, I think that it requires a large amount of emotional resiliency and fortitude to actually finish the project, right? And this is the same with raising kids or parenting. And so that's why I start with this. And I think the reason that most people want to feel better, is part of it is right in the beginning, right? You just don't want to feel crappy. You're tired of feeling angry or depressed or anxious. You're tired of feeling discouraged or frustrated or confused. And so it's just nice to not have to feel that way anymore. But the other thing is, it's not just that the things that you don't want to feel, it's also that there's all these things that you want to be a part of your life, right? You want to be able to lay down at night and feel peaceful about what you did that day. We want love, we want gratitude, we want to feel encouraged and motivated, enthusiastic, and all this stuff. And so sometimes there's not room for that because we're so stuck in this other rut. Does that resonate with anyone or sound like that makes sense to you guys? Is anyone here for those reasons? Nobody? Well, that's how it felt for me. I think that's a big part of it, is that I think people don't want to feel the negative stuff and they want to feel the positive stuff instead. But the thing that I want to say about it is that I don't think that it's just specifically, well, I just want to feel better right now. I think that's what gets us in the door. And I think that's what makes us sign up for a class like this. But I think the bigger picture is that there's something bigger that we want in our life. And so, when we talk about creating a life that you love, I think that it requires this. And I also think that the reason that we want these things is so that we do feel good about our life every day, so that we're not sitting there at a job that we hate, or in a relationship that's not healthy, or, in a body that's sick. And so we have reasons why I think developing these feelings are important. And it's because if we feel a certain way, the things that, you know, then we're going to be able, if we're feeling more motivated, if we're not feeling anxious, overwhelmed, depressed, we're going to be able to actually accomplish a lot more in our life. And so I think having that little bit of context to this is important. And so we're going to start with mastering emotional resiliency. There's two parts to this that I want to talk about. And the first one is processing difficult emotions. Do you guys want to hear about processing difficult emotions?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes, please.
What was the number one reason that you guys wanted to come to show up to this? Was it, so I'm going to ask you, let me lay this out, and then I want you guys to tell me what sounds the best to you. The first part of this is processing difficult emotions. And there's 4 things that we can do with emotions, okay? We can resist them, we can react to them, we can avoid them, or we can allow them, okay? And what I want to say first about processing difficult emotions is that this is the reason that I spend so much time talking about this, is because the way that I see it is like, if you imagine like a giant beach ball and you're trying to like hold the beach ball under the water, that can get really exhausting. In fact, so when I talk about burnout and I work with people around burnout, one of the key components to burnout is emotional exhaustion. Okay. And it's also the thing that causes the most physical illness in your body as well. But this is a big component of that. And so, you know, like I said, if you imagine a giant beach ball and you're just trying to hold the beach ball under the water, first of all, that can get really old and exhausting. But secondly, the problem with it, like if you're just resisting or avoiding an emotion or trying not to feel it, a lot of times we numb with, you know, our buffer, I call it, with, you know, drugs, with alcohol, with food, with YouTube, with sex or relationships. A lot of people avoid emotions with working overtime. There's a lot of different ways that we cope with that, dealing with these negative emotions. And so those coping mechanisms have a lot of impacts, like I was talking about before, in your life. And that's why it matters, right? Because when we're having these negative coping mechanisms, the reason that we show up is because we start to say, okay, this is really impacting my life in an important way, whether that's my finances, my relationships, my career, my personal health. There's some reason that this is showing up in my life, okay? And so the other thing too is holding that beach ball down. Not only does it get exhausting, and not only do those coping mechanisms start to actually have a negative impact in your life, but the other thing about the beach ball is if you let go of it, even for a second, it like whacks you in the face. And so you have to like shove it back, okay, and then you let go or you get distracted, and it keeps hitting you in the face over and over again. And that's the same with these difficult emotions. Is the thing about them is when we're feeling a painful emotion, God, like we don't want to keep feeling it. And sometimes we'll carry this stuff with us for our whole life. And so the thing about processing difficult emotions, I think that is so important to recognize, is that this doesn't mean that you never want to feel a negative emotion again, at least not for me. There's times that I want to feel angry. There's times that I want to feel sad or experience grief. Like there's times in my life where that is appropriate to be in pain, and that's okay. But it's not a place that I want to stay. And so I think where it gets hard is that we'll experience an emotion will come into our life and we'll feel it, and it'll be uncomfortable and painful even. And so we might try to resist it, avoid it, ignore it, shove it down under the water. And so then we just keep continuing to re-experiencing it. And I think that's where we get stuck in a rut, right? And so it's not that I don't ever want to feel a negative emotion. It's that I want to be able to feel it, give it its time, and then allow it to move on, so that I can do the second part, which is bringing in and cultivating positive emotions that I do want in my life, like love and peace and gratitude and enthusiasm and excitement and all the good things. What do you guys think about that? Any thoughts?
Well, I think that makes sense, and I really like the analogy of the beach ball and trying to push that down, because that seems pretty spot on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the thing that I noticed is it's not that people are like, man, I experienced fear today, like that's screwed up. It's like, well, maybe fear is a normal part of life, but are you stuck in fear? Are you continuing to have it hit you in the face over and over and over again because you've not actually dealt with it? And so what I like to teach people to do, and it's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, is I have a whole process for going through and processing difficult emotions. And so instead of holding it down and occasionally allowing it to whap you in the face, my goal is to teach you to kind of reach around and find the valve and let the air out of it. Okay? Because once you can let the air out of it, then you can let go of it and release that and move on. And now you have room for new things in your life. Okay? But the thing about finding that valve and releasing the air out of that is that you actually have to spend some time looking at the beach ball. You actually have to spend some time feeling it and paying attention to it and locating that source. Okay, does this make sense?
Yeah.
And so you can't do that when you're resisting, avoiding, or even just reacting in anger or whatever it is that's going on in your life. Kind of, to me, it feels like the example I've used to people is like when I'm totally in that, feels like my brain is in a blender, or like I'm on a roundabout, my gas foot is just pushed down the gas pedal, and I'm just going around this roundabout and I'm totally sucked into the emotion and it's just running my life and I'm just reacting to it. And I'm like, oh, I want off of this roundabout, but I like can't find my exit, right? And so you have to slow down and be able to go through a process in order to be able to actually figure that out. I don't know if that resonates with anyone at all or not, but hi, Karina. Okay, so step one is processing the difficult emotions. That matters because none of us want to live there. Agreed?
Yes.
Step two is cultivating positive emotions, because these are the things that we want to feel in our lives, at least more than the negative. We might feel the hard things occasionally, but we're not going to stay there. And we want to learn what are the ways that we can actually build and encourage these positive emotions rather than just have it be like the weather that kind of comes and goes, right? I feel happy today, I feel sad today. I feel gratitude today, I don't feel gratitude the next day, right? Like, what if you had some control over that? Would that feel good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's these are the first two steps. And once you learn to do these things, then you can kind of like have a little bit more agency over your emotional life. And then when you decide to do something in your life, to get married, to have kids, to start a business, to have a new career, whatever it is that you're going after, to travel the world, you're not going to get sidetracked or blown off track because something difficult came up. And that happens a lot, guys. Something hard comes up. Well, this wasn't meant to be. It's not working. And we give up on our dreams and we just sort of live mediocre lives a lot of times because we've never really learned what to do with, well, so-and-so was mean to me today. I guess we're not going to be friends. It's like, well, what if there was a different way to approach that to where you could actually sustain yourself through some of the hard things? Does that sound like something you guys are interested in hearing about?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe? All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to do this part just really quickly. We're not going to spend too much time on this second step. Like I said, I just wanted to include it in here because I feel like it gives some context to why this matters. I think getting out of pain is a great place to start, and being able to bring in positive emotions is a great place to start. But I think what's important to realize is what you can do with it once you're able to really get a handle on that on your day-to-day basis. So when I take people through this part, the first part is that I always talk about is claiming your power. What do you think that means to you guys?
I think part of it has to, like, claiming your power, I think, is recognizing the responsibility maybe that you have for yourself. Like, your power is your responsibility, and knowing that it's up to you to make the change.
I love that. That's super awesome. Yeah, and that really ties.
Knowing that we have a choice.
that you have a choice. Yes, I love that. And that's really what this is about as far as the emotional part, just like I was talking about, like it's not about never feeling a bad emotion or only feeling good ones, but that you do have some control and choice in what you feel. Sometimes you want to feel the bad one. Sometimes you want to kind of move on to a good one. And it's the same with your life. Yeah, I think that's the thing about empowerment. I love that word choice, like, because that's what we all want, right? I want to be able to take the day off work if my kid is sick. I want to know that I'm not so financially strapped that if I have a flat tire or, you know, or again, if I have to take a day off work because my dog is sick or my kid is sick, that that's going to, you know, cause undue stress on my life, you know, that I have the choice to go to a wedding or, you know, take some time off, that I'm going to have the choice to retire in a way that feels good to me or what, you know, I don't know what it might be for you guys, but yeah, choice I think is huge.
Claiming your power, I think that too is also knowing your own voice inside and remembering that that using your voice changes your world.
Yes. Yeah. How do you feel like it changes your world, Karina? Have you had, what's been your experience with that when you speak up? And
well, it not only empowers me, but it helps empower my friends and kind of push it forward. Like just talking about reclaiming power. Like I had a moment of misogyny happening last week, and I went into the very agreeable mode, right?
yeah.
And one of my best friends in Seattle had a moment of misogyny happen 2 days ago, and she went into the very, I am not wrong. I refuse to let you make me think I'm wrong. I'm going to stand up for my voice, as he kept coming back to her and saying, you really have a bad attitude. You really are not, you know, a nice woman. Like, and it's like, and her and I had this most beautiful, wonderful talk. Cause like she handled it her way and didn't go agreeable, and it didn't, and she had a large emotional reaction because he kept coming back. I went agreeable and I had a large emotional reaction, and we were all both able to say, right, we had this, it happened, it sucked. Any other option probably would have equally sucked, yet here we are as women using our voices.
Yeah,
continually.
Great.
And how we
I get to choose how I'm going to show up in this
right.
in the circumstance that I'm in.
And I'm going to let go of this bad day because
Right.
these two misogynistic moments are not worth me having 2 bad days.
Right.
So,
well, and it's interesting because it's like, even when something like that happens, it's so funny how like so often we do a lot of this stuff and I don't even think we realize it, but it's like, so you were able to process that situation and the emotion that came up with it and then move on from it instead of getting stuck in that about, because a lot of times what can happen is, you know, especially I think with women, we'll get stuck in like a shame circle of like, well, I should have done it different, or should have, you know, I should have
right.
instead of just,
well, and then you think like, if I wasn't agreeable, it would have gone so much better. And Leanne kept thinking if she was agreeable, it would have gone so much better.
Well, in reality, it's just in life, we're going to have experiences
right.
that suck. And we just, and so that's not always true. That's super interesting. We tell ourselves stories about things and I think sometimes that story can either make things help us move on more quickly, or those stories can kind of keep us stuck and should have, you know. So for me, claiming your power is really about, like you guys said, it's really more about agency. And so, you know, we start here, and then when we come down to claiming your power, I spend a lot of time, like I said, I do a lot of work around stress and burnout. And so for me, this is, again, it's like, everything that you guys said kind of ties into it. But I'll tell you the key component for me, the reason and the thing that I want to see, like the result of claiming your power for me is energy. And so when we're stuck in negative emotions, it sucks our energy. One of the hallmarks, like I said, of burnout is emotional exhaustion. So when you're stuck in that circle, whatever the negative emotion is, whether it's shame, anxiety, overwhelm, fear, grief, anger, there's so many things. And when you stay there for a long time, can anyone relate to this, that you feel emotionally depleted and that your energy gets drained? Right.
I absolutely feel that to my core.
Cool. And it impacts your life. It impacts your ability to show up for people and for yourself. Okay, so I hope this, so I'm trying to tie this all together. This is why it matters. It matters because I don't want you to be in pain, but it also matters because I want you to have your energy back so that you can live your life, right? And so claiming your power is not something we're going to be able to cover a lot today because there's so much that's involved in it. But when I go through this with people, like I said, we talk about the physical, we talk about, are you getting enough sleep? So the other way I talk about this is broadening your bandwidth. So I want to take you and I want to help you broaden your bandwidth to be able to absorb the shock of a misogynistic experience. When you're tired, when you haven't been sleeping, when you're feeling, just stressed out, your kids have just been fighting with you and with each other for a week, when your job is not going well, when everything in your life is just stress, your bank account is drained, you feel like your list of things to get done is 2 miles long and you can't even remember what all is on it. It's just kind of that drippy faucet that accumulates. And then you have an experience and it's just like kind of, feels like
100%.
becomes too much. And so this is a process that I feel like helps with that, okay? So you can begin to say, okay, claiming my power, broadening your bandwidth, however you want to think about it. What it does is it gives you the reserves. It starts to build up your reserves again. So sleep, we do a lot of like work around sexual empowerment and having a sexually fulfilled sex life. A lot of people, that's something we don't talk a lot about in our culture, but it's so important, and when we feel repressed in that way, like that's part of being human, my friends. It is a part of our humanity. And when that has to be stuffed in a dark corner, like that has an impact in your energy and how you show up as a whole human, And so claiming your power has to do with all of that stuff. We talk about your diet, we talk about exercise, we talk about sleep, we talk about relationships, we talk about money, all the things that help you to get your energy back so that you're not feeling so depleted. Does that make sense?
100%.
All right, the second part is finding your path. This, for me, is all about clarity. Okay. And again, I think we want to feel better. We want to have, what are the things that you guys want in your life? I've heard confidence. Love is a big one. What else? What is something that would feel good? If you had to pick 3 emotions that you wanted to feel or feelings that you wanted to feel more often in your life.
Joy.
Joy.
Peace with my circumstances.
Joy, peace. What else?
Stability.
Stability. I'm going to erase this top one so I have some room. Is that what I heard? Was it stability?
Yeah.
Okay.
And congruency, like I'm in the space I should be in. And moving.
Yeah.
And I think that's my big question for you is why do we get, maybe I missed it and you said it, but why do we get stuck in these trapped emotions that we're unable to move forward no matter how bad we want it? Like, what is the motivating factor or the attachment or like the deep-seated like root of this problem?
God, what an amazing question. Who asked that question?
It's Carrie.
Carrie. Wow, I love that question. Say it again.
What is it at the core of everything that keeps us attached and unable to process and really move forward? Even if we are processing through grief or whatever the emotion, would be for somebody, what keeps us stuck in that place? What is it that motivates that behavior or makes it so comfortable that we're unwilling to leave no matter how much we don't want to be there? And sorry if you covered that, but
No, my brain is like a Christmas tree right now. I'm ADD and I'm like, oh my God, how many, like there's so many things that are tied into that. I'm like, so many things that I want to respond to. What a great
whenever it's appropriate, but that's my
Oh, that's a beautiful question. So there's a lot to it, Carrie. And so that's where this is the other thing I want to tell you guys is be patient with yourself. All of this stuff that we want, like this is a lifetime achievement. Okay? Like for some people getting through a grief, like the death of a child. I have a friend that recently experienced her child actually committed suicide in their house just this few months ago. And and in their home, and can't even imagine, can you even imagine the grief of that, right? So getting through that, I mean, this is not something that you're going to learn in a workshop in an hour, or, you know, in a couple sessions. Like that could take a lifetime, you know, to really come through all that. And for some people, maybe it doesn't. I think that time frame changes, but it's not like such an easy answer, right? To be like, well, here's why you're stuck there. And so I think it really depends on the person, what the emotion is and what it means to them. There are certain emotions that I get stuck in more easily than others, Carrie, and it's because of my attachment to them, right? And so sometimes our ability to work through an emotion, it has to do a lot with our belief about it. And that's something, when we talk about this one, I'll talk about more in a different workshop, because we just aren't going to have the time, I don't think, to cover it all today. This is kind of like a 101 type intro, but I will tell you that, Carrie, really, I think a lot of it has to do with your belief about the emotion. So every emotion that you experience in your life, every emotion, where do you think it's created? What do you think generates emotion?
I would say our thoughts, probably. What does everyone else think?
Our thoughts and our experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Mari. Is it Mari? Is that how you say it?
Yes, and our, not just our experiences, but those people in our lives that, you know, like our parents and our friends and so on. Those influential people. Yes.
So I will tell you, and so there's, yeah, I love it. You guys are so smart. Oh my gosh, you know, it's beautiful. But that's the thing, is as you start to put all this together, and this is where it's a growth process, right? So we get better at it over time. The more we practice it, and the more we understand it, and then we begin to really be like, okay, and it starts to become something internalized. That like, okay, I know what to do with this, right? And so it's your attachment. Oftentimes, Carrie, we get really attached to a story, even if it's a story that's causing us pain. We don't want to let go of it. That story has been with us our whole lives. And so when I work with women on identity, and a lot of women who have come through abuse and neglect and a lot of really hard experiences, and even like with weight, there are women who want to lose weight and they have all this extra weight. But it was so interesting. There was one woman who, when we really got to the heart of it, she was like, I'm like, what is all this extra weight? You know, what does it mean to you? And she was like, well, like if you had to pick a word or like a picture, an image, draw a picture of like what it meant to you, like what would that picture be? And for her, it was a blanket. It felt safe and warm. And it was like, this is, I've had it my whole life. This has been with me and it's kept me safe. She had experienced sexual abuse as a child. And that was something that to her, you know, maybe that extra would keep her safe from that. And that's what it meant to her. And so there was a story there, Carrie, that she was like, I wanted to let go of, but that's not something that's just going to be quick or easy, right? And so there are certain things that we attach to for reasons like Mari said. What are your experiences in the world with your parents, with your partner? How do you get treated? And these things, and your brothers and the people that were important to you growing up and your early adolescence and your boss, and are there certain stories that get fed you over and over again, and especially from people that are really important in your life? And have you grabbed onto something that you're having difficulty letting go of? And so for me, rejection is one of my deepest wounds from childhood. And so when I get stuck in a rut of anxiety, depression, overwhelm, oftentimes there's a theme to it, Carrie. And when I sit down to analyze it, I can oftentimes find that underneath all of that, there's something about proving my worth. I'm not good enough.
That's awesome.
He doesn't love me. He doesn't want me. There's something, so it's tied to something greater, right? So this is, like I said, this is a sort of an intro, but there are reasons why we get stuck in these patterns, and there are reasons why it's harder to let go of certain ones than others. And it takes some investigation. It takes compassion and patience and kind of working through it and getting to know it a little bit.
Our circumstances really influence that.
Yeah, it can. So does that answer your question at all, Carrie? Was there a part that I missed at all?
Oh, no, that was great. And I was just going to add to that real quickly that I think society's perceived roles for us is also makes a huge difference as well into how much we are accepting of ourselves and able to move past certain roles. Like, I feel like generally we're expected as women to be wives and mothers. And so if you're not filling that role, it's easy to feel less than and not feel engaged. So I think it's really in finding our true worth as a person, not based off of who we are, you know, as a paramedic or a mom or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what is your identity and what do you want it to be? So taking a look at what is my current identity? What are those beliefs? What's everything based on? And am I okay with, is it what I actually want? And it's okay to not let go of a story right away. You don't have to, but just recognizing that you have it is huge. And then going through the process of being patient with yourself and understanding it. And okay, Robin, I see that you're thinking, I see that you're really afraid, like this has to work or I'm not going to be good enough. I hear that. I understand that. That makes sense for you. Gosh, look at your life. That's what you've learned for so many years. And I can talk my way and just be patient with myself. Okay. And it's like this little kid, like, I don't have to let go of it. And it's like, no, you can keep it as long as you need. But it's just looking at it and seeing it. And then it's like, okay, well, what else? Well, if I didn't have this story, what would be my other identity? Because truly, identity is hard to let go of. The identity of, that for me, changing from the person that I used to be into the person that I am today, gosh, ladies and gentlemen and everything in between, that was hard. I lost a bunch of weight. Let me tell you, I was scared to lose that weight. I didn't know who I would be without the story of I'm a compulsive eater. I can't control my eating habits. That was, when I realized that, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, how can I stand up here and coach someone on weight loss if I'm not super overweight? That was a belief I had. They're not going to think I'm believable. They're not going to believe me. They're not going to trust me. I have to stay overweight. And it's like,
I had the thought this morning of what am I going to do with my day if I'm not numbing myself?
Right. And it's like, and again, what Carrie said about being less than, some of the stuff lies really self-conscious. So we self-sabotage in ways that we don't always understand right away. Like, why am I doing this? And there's always a belief deep, deep, deep down. And sometimes it takes some time to drill down and find what's really at the bedrock of all of this. So that's clarity, finding your path. So all of this kind of comes together, right? So really figuring out, who am I? How have I been living? What do I believe about myself? Getting to know all that. And then also, what do I want to believe? What do I want to believe about myself? Who do I want to be in the world? Am I doing this job because, again, it's what my mom wanted me to do? Am I doing it to please someone else? Am I doing it because it's what my partner wants? Am I living where I live because of my child? Is it actually what I want? And that's okay if I'm going to stay living here, but at least recognizing and being really clear in your mind about what it is that you want. Are you living it? Are you making sacrifices? Maybe they're good for good reason and you're happy with those, but just being aware of, okay, I'm going to make the sacrifice for now. And then this is my plan for how I'm going to move into that thing that I want eventually, or whatever. But really knowing who you are, what you want, and why you want it, why it matters to you. Okay. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's important?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for your vulnerability, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seriously.
It makes everything better when we can just talk openly. Knowing what you want and having a purpose behind it. When you have like an epic, unwavering, unforgettable reason, like I am going to lose this weight because, and it like resonates deeply with you, you are so much more likely to stay on the path, especially when you have these tools. When you're like, I'm going to start this business because I want to be able to stay home with my kids and make my own schedule. And that matters to me. And I'm not going to be that parent that had to work Christmas again because my employer told me I had to. That's never going to happen again. Or whatever it means. I'm going to do this because I'm getting out of debt because I don't want my kids to take care of me. I want to be able to take care of my parent. Whatever it is, it has to be something that really resonates with you. And having that strong why is so important. Okay. You guys feel that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the second step that I want to kind of just put in your brain. And then notice where the action part is. This is the implementation, making it happen. It's way down here at the very end. It is the last thing that we do. Everybody wants to jump here first. And I think this is a huge part of why we don't get where we want to get, because we're like, what do I need to do to feel better? What do I need to do to get, what do I need to do to blah, 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 fill in the blank. And it's all about what do I need to do in order to have this thing. But the doing is like the very last thing. There's this whole foundation that gets skipped. And when you do this part first and you take it slow, piece by piece, step by step, be patient with yourself, really get to all the reasons why, learning this emotional resiliency, learning how to process hard things, and learning how to create good motivating emotions that fuel you with energy and make you want to do the stuff. That's going to help you stay the course. Learning these tools, claiming your power, right? Finding your voice, figuring out who you are, what you want, broadening your bandwidth, making sure you're getting enough sleep, taking care of your body, making sure you have the energy emotionally and otherwise physically to be able to go after the things that you want, and knowing why you want it, what you want it to look like, where do you want to retire, where do you want to live, what's your house going to look like, getting really clear and knowing why you want it. I want these things because I never had, I never had abundance as a child. I always felt scarcity, and I always felt this is what I grew up around, and I don't want that to be my retirement. That's not going to be the way I go out. I'm going to go out in this other way. And maybe that really resonates for you. And if that gives you that, that's going to hold you to your plan, right? So you have to have something that's going to keep your feet on the fire when it gets uncomfortable. And then at the very end, that's when we make the action plan. Okay, this is my goal. This is my dream. This is my life. This is how I want to feel. This is why I want to do it. This is how I'm going to do it. And then we take the steps, and then we start walking it out, and we do that together. What do you guys think about this?
I like it. I think I had the whole thing backwards, that maybe if I fix the problems, then all my life would kind of come together somehow. I'm not really sure, but it's just an interesting perspective to see it laid out like this.
Well, yeah, because like, say you're exercising, and when you go through and you're like, okay, well, I feel like I'm out of shape. All right, well, then I'm going to exercise, and then I'll feel those things. Then I'll be somebody. Then I'll be worthy.
It's backwards. It's backwards.
Right. It's totally backwards.
Flip it around.
You got to do the work.
And then out of a sense of worthiness, I show up.
Right.
When I feel not worthy, when I'm telling myself a story like, oh gosh, I'm not a good enough coach, I'm not a good enough presenter, I'm not a good enough teacher, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. Do you think I'm going to show up and do a class?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm going to go hide somewhere. I'm going to go, I got to read a book first. I got to make sure, I got to get another certification. I got to go get a master's degree. That's going to have, I'm going to spend all my time proving to myself, trying to prove to myself that I'm worthy or good enough. When it's like, I was always worthy, always. And when I know that, then I show up with what I have. I show up with what I have, and I offer what I have to give. And it's enough. And if there's something that someone wants more, then we say, yes, let's go find it. And we go get more. And then it begins to grow and grow and grow and grow. And so it starts with the worthiness. When I was trying to lose weight out of see, here's the thing. We are afraid, I believe that our fear is that we are afraid to be at peace with ourselves. We are afraid to be at peace with our lives, with our bodies. We are afraid to love ourselves and our lives exactly the way it is. Because if we love and accept ourselves, truly love and accept ourselves and our life, then the fear is we're not going to change it. If I truly love and accept my job and make peace with my job, well, then I'm not going to get a new job. I have to hate my job so that I'll leave it. I have to hate my partner, otherwise I'm never going to divorce him. That's not true though. You can love your partner and say, wow, I have found a way to really love you, and I love myself, and I'm happy, and I want to leave and do something different. And actually, when you are in that place of loving my body, when I'm frustrated and I'm hating my body and trying to white knuckle my way through a diet, that's when I end up binging. Mm-hmm. When I finally was able to, when you get to the place of I'm worthy exactly the way I am, I'm worthy and I'm lovable and I love myself. And when you really, truly begin to feel that, you begin to want to treat yourself well. And treating myself well meant a lot of things. Treating myself well meant eating good food. It meant going for a walk. It didn't mean going to what's the high intensity thing that everybody does nowadays. That wasn't loving myself. Not for me. For some people it is. For me, it was going for a walk. For me, it was just that slowly but surely getting toxic people out of my life. It was just that slow shift into everything. What does it mean to love me? And that was sustainable. So, how are we doing?
That was really powerful.
Yeah. So there's an old quote, and I'll end, and then if you guys want, I'll take you through my process for processing difficult emotions, or we can do Q&A. I'll leave it up to you. I'll end with this quote. It's, and when we do the Finding the Path portion of my program too, it's, this is what I tell people, and it's kind of the basis of all of it. The destination is the way. Have you heard that?
No.
The destination is the way. When I start getting the things that I want in my business, and I have and running and trying to, it's like, Robin, what did you want this business for? Well, I wanted this business so that I could work from home and take care of my kids and have a flexible schedule and go hiking, go camping. When was the last time you went camping, Robin? Well, I got it. No. The destination is the way. What do you want? So when I live out of the place that I want to be, you get there so much faster. In fact, you get there almost immediately. What do I want to lose all that weight for? Well, so that I'll feel good about my body. That's available to me right now. And when I felt good about my body got better. When I relaxed about my business got better. So that's what, just kind of what I'll end with, just something to think about. The destination is the way. Wherever it is that you're wanting to get, if you live from that place, you're gonna get there a lot faster. Okay, winding down. What do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to do some open Q&A time? Or do you want me to walk you through? I have the process. I have like a 6-step thing for processing difficult emotions. Do you want to save that for another workshop? I wanted to leave these last 15 minutes kind of up to you guys.
I'd like to hear the 6 steps.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay.
Me too.
All right. So here we go. We got 15 minutes. If you guys have to hop off, feel free to. Hopefully we can get through it in that amount of time. All right. So this is processing difficult emotions. All right. Like I said, before we end and somebody has to leave, if you want to work with me, send me an email, let me know. We can talk about it one-on-one. I'm right now for the month of December, I am offering pretty much a year-long program, which I've never done before at my beta program introductory rates, just because of COVID. And like I said, with everything going on this year, it's something I've thought a lot about. And this is just something that I'm offering to you guys and the people that I have done consultations with this week. So I can talk to you more about that, but I'm opening up my program for a year to be able to go through this stuff with the people that want it. At, like I said, usually my 3 to 4 month rates. And so I really want this to be accessible. And I feel like there are a lot of people that need help with this stuff. So please know that if this is something you're interested in talking about more, feel free to shoot me an email and we can sit down one-on-one and talk about that. Okay. Just want to make sure that you guys know that. And if you need help with a payment plan or anything like that, I really want to work it out and make it accessible to you, because I really believe in this stuff, if it wasn't obvious. Okay, processing difficult emotions. The first step is recognition, okay? And I'm going to write this down so when you guys watch it later, you can come back and see it. All right, so the first step is recognition. This is learning to recognize your body's cues, okay? And when you're being overcome with an emotion, when you're starting to feel flooded, like, my cage is rattling. It's like this, the lady used to say, that was her thing. My cage is rattling, I can feel it rattling, right? And you can tell, for me, it's like, and my chest starts to feel tight, my body, I can tell, okay, something's happening. I'm going to the bad place. And just recognizing that that's happening. If you're able, my recommendation is, if you're able to, when you feel that happening, if you're able to find a private place. For me, if I'm at work, sometimes that means going to the bathroom. or if you're at home, then that's great, going into a bedroom or something, but finding a private place where you can sit down and do the rest of this process is really helpful. If you can't find a private place and you recognize that you got triggered and something's happening in your body, we can talk about that more a little bit later too, but the best thing that I can recommend for you to do is to just take some breaths, just breathe. Just know that everything's going to be okay, that this is just something that's happening in your body and everything's okay, and just breathe and try to breathe through it until you can get to a place where you can actually process this through, okay? So that's the first step. The second step is allowing. Do you remember what we said about the things that you can do with emotions? Learning to allow the emotion instead of resisting it, fighting it, whatever. And so this is where you're going to learn to allow the feeling, the emotion to go all the way through your body without fighting it or trying to change it. So when I'm anxious, I just want to not feel anxious anymore. And I'm looking, again, skipping way down to the bottom of the action. What's the action that I can take to not feel anxious anymore? That's way out of order. Right now, I am meant to feel anxious. I am feeling anxious, and that's okay, right? So don't try to change it. You have to make peace with it and feel it. It's like, again, finding the air valve and letting the air out, okay? And so this is where I would ask you to get really present in your body. If you're sitting down, just close your eyes. Like yoga people, they'll tell you, like, feel the feet beneath your floor. So if you're at work or something and you can't get somewhere private, holding a pen and just focusing on the sensation of the pen in your hand, whatever it takes, that's why people have those worry stones that they rub. That's what you're doing, is you're getting present in your body. When you're experiencing anxiety or fear or a lot of those things, your brain is either in the future or it's in the past, tripping about something that happened or tripping about something that you think is going to happen. So really getting present, being like, right now in this moment, my body is okay. Okay, where is my body? Well, my feet are on the floor. Get present. I can feel the seat beneath me, the pen in my hand. How does it feel when your lungs fill up with air? And really just focusing on the sensations, the sounds, the smells around you, and getting really present. This is called grounding. This is a grounding technique. Has anybody ever heard about grounding? Okay. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to breathe. I want you to be still and allow the feeling to just be there. Allow it. Notice it. Okay. And just allow it to be there and breathe. Okay. And we're going to do, it's just knowing that this is a normal part of the human experience, I think, is really important. Doesn't mean something's gone terrible wrong. In our lives, we feel negative emotions. So experiencing without judgment or resistance. The third step is to name the feeling. Okay. So I want you to actually say out loud, if possible. So I've recognized something's going on. I found a private space, get present in my body, allow the discomfort, and then I'm going to name it. Oh, this is fear. Oh, this is grief. This is what grief feels like. Oh, this is anxiety. This is frustration. This is anger. Name it. And that's a super important thing that I think a lot of people don't do. So the thing about naming the feeling, what is it you're experiencing, is it separates you from the experience in a very important way. Okay, it forces your brain to move. You have a primitive brain and you have an executive brain. Yes, do we all know this? Okay, your primitive brain, when you're in that shitstorm of emotion, your primitive brain is obsessing over it and is amplifying the emotion, creating more of it. Yes, does it feel that way sometimes? Okay.
Yeah.
So when you name that feeling, it forces your brain to move out of the role of generating the emotion and creating more of it. And instead it shifts you into the executive brain in that role of watching the emotion, of naming it, of describing it, of actually investigating, oh, okay, this is grief. It's an important switch that happens in your brain, okay? So if at all possible, and if you don't know exactly, if you just kind of have a vague, you can come back to it. You can kind of do these other steps and then come back to it. What is it that I'm feeling? You can talk through, is it anger? Is it frustration? Maybe it's this? And you can even name a few things until oh, okay. And when you come up with it, you're like, that's what this is. I'm feeling resentful. Oh, okay. And then you can start to really understand why. Does that feel important?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Does this all make sense?
Yeah, it does. Do you deal with are you familiar with radical acceptance? And
Yes.
is that something that you teach
Yes.
on in more depth within what you're talking about?
Absolutely. And in fact, so Tara Brach, book, Radical Acceptance, you can Google her. In fact, my process is really based largely on her work. And so Tara Brach, I've just added a few things to her work that I think are important. So her acronym is RAIN. And this is part of what I'm talking you through. Okay, RAIN, the R is recognition. The A is allow. I've added a couple steps here, and then we'll talk about these last two. But yes, Tara Brach is part of where I got this. Also, my work is based heavily on the work of Brooke Castillo, Mastin Kipp, and a lot of other people. Byron Katie, if anybody knows about Byron Katie, I use a lot of her work too in my coaching and stuff. So name the
Actually,
feeling.
I'm familiar with them, so that's really cool. I'm not familiar with any of them or who kind of coined the radical acceptance part, but yeah, it reminded me of something I've learned before.
Her name is
really like where you're going with it.
Tara Brach. And she has a book called Radical Acceptance. Okay, so recognize it's happening, find a quiet place, allow it to exist, don't fight it, breathe, get present in your body, ground yourself, call it out, name what it is, and that switches your brain from producing the emotion to watching the emotion, and then you're going to describe it. How does it feel in your body? This is also helping you to stay grounded. So take a moment, but not just to stay grounded, but it's like there's another quote that says pain demands to be felt. And it's like the beach ball. It's like there's this thing, and especially if it's a persistent emotion or feeling that you've carried your whole life, there is something that is demanding to be understood. And until you really sit with it and do that work, it's not going to go away. It's like a little kid with their mom, and it's like, good, what? And as soon as I just wanted to tell you, and it's like, that was all. It's like, okay, go on. And then they go play, right? And sometimes our emotions can be like that. They will pound at the door until you give them their time. Okay, so describe it. Spend some time being willing to experience the discomfort. And if you are willing to experience it for 5 minutes, fully, consciously, intentionally, you will not have to experience it for 50 years. That's the goal, okay? So take a moment to experience how this emotion is showing up in your body and describe it out loud. Where are you feeling it? Okay, there's a catch in my throat. It feels heavy in my chest. Are you feeling it in your stomach, your neck, shoulders, arms, legs? Really talk it out. Does it feel tight? Does it feel heavy? Maybe some people describe chills. They'll get goosebumps. There might be a feeling of warmth. Some people talk about like a warm wash over their body, warmth like in your gut, or maybe your face is red and flushed. Maybe you feel heat somewhere in your body. Talk it out. Is there tension? Is there tightness? Maybe there's like a tingling feeling. Sometimes when I'm in grief, my arms, my legs, everything just feels weak. Like I couldn't stand up if I wanted to. Can't even lift my arms. And so maybe there's weakness in your body somewhere. Maybe there's a sinking feeling in your stomach. Sometimes I'll get like an feeling of like expansion, like something wants to expand inside me, or like I'm about to float, you know? Waves going through my stomach, shaking, whatever it is. Get really in tune and talk it out. Go from your head all the way down your body, scan your body, and what are you actually feeling? What are the sensations of this feeling that you just named? How does it feel in your body? And then after you've described it, the fifth step is the I in RAIN, and it's investigate. Okay, this is where you say, this is where you take the time to figure out what's causing the feeling, okay? So I am feeling angry because, fill in the blank. I am feeling anxious because, fill in the blank. Find the sentence that's running through your head right before the feeling started. What are the sentences that are going through your brain? Because it's like we talked about, the thoughts are what that's what generates our emotions, isn't it? So investigate. I'm feeling this way because what? And if you need to journal, sometimes I write out pages. I'm feeling because this, and don't try to filter it. Don't try to be mature. Just let it out. Whatever you're feeling and believing and thinking, get that out of your head, because that's what's creating the emotion. And we'll talk about more about that in another time. But that's the investigation, okay? What am I thinking right now about me, about this person, about this situation? What am I believing and thinking about my self-worth, my ability, my future, whatever it is, get it out. And then I want you to go to the most honest truth. So if you write it all on paper, go and circle the one that feels the most true or has the most emotional pull to you. Find that sentence, okay? Be honest with yourself and find the thought that makes your body feel its absolute worst, okay? So that we're going deep into it. The one that makes your body filled with vibrations and discomfort, what is that thought? Write it down. And there may be lots of them. And then the very last step is the N, and this is nurture. What do you think this means?
Self-care, self-love, self-care, self-soothing.
Okay.
Having grace and forgiveness for yourself.
All the things. All the things. So this is the part where you give yourself whatever it is that you are most needing in order to be healed. So so in this process, you are really going into the experience. You're naming it, you're feeling it. Sometimes I just sit there and cry, and I'm like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. This is grief. This is grief. I feel it here. I feel it there. I feel it in my shoulders. I feel it in my gut. This is grief. And sometimes I'll cycle through and I'll start back again, and I'll go through this as many times as it takes. I'm feeling grief because I lost this person that means so much to me. Right? Yeah, that makes sense, Robin. And I feel it and experience it. And then I ask myself, okay, what do I need to feel better? What am I needing in order to not feel this anymore? I need that person to love me. I need him to love me. I need her to love me. I need them to understand where I'm coming from. I want them to know how much I care about them. I wish they could forgive me. I need them to forgive me. I write it all out too, because I won't be able to keep track of it all. So I do this process with a journal. Write out all the things I need, I want, this is what I need in order to be healed. And then that part of you that is feeling the most pain, that part of you, once you've identified what does it need to be seen in a different way, loved, heard, understood, cared for? You sense that, I write it down, and now you're going to spend a moment exploring the possibility of offering whatever it is that is most needed to yourself. Explore the possibility of calling on your own self-love, self-compassion, understanding. Can I give myself forgiveness? Can I give myself that love? Okay. Can I understand? If it's understanding, can I understand it in a new way? And I might even say words to myself like, it's okay, sweetheart. I'm sorry and I love you. If that's what I'm needing to be heard, I can give that to myself. I'm sorry that you're going through this, Robin, and I love you. Like, that can be powerful to speak those words. I care about this suffering. Whatever you choose, allow it to be an honest expression of whatever truly does allow you to feel whatever it is, that love, that understanding, if it's reassurance that you're needing, whatever it is that you're needing to kind of flow into yourself, into your body, mind, and soul. And, you might even imagine some light or warmth pouring into your body if you want, whatever it is for you, all the feel-goody stuff, but really just knowing what you need, finding what you need, write it out, and then can I give that to myself? And then just knowing that this too shall pass. And that is the beginning of releasing a negative emotion. I think you'll feel that by the end of it, the grip has loosened. And the worst thing that can happen is a vibration. This right here, what you're describing in your body, this is how it feels. Doesn't feel good, but you're not dead. And you can do hard things. You can feel hard things. And when you go through this process, the next thing that I'll show you is how to create something new. Only once you felt the release of it. Only once you felt it, the grip let go. I don't try to force it away. You sit with that emotion as long as it needs. It's that beach ball. We're not trying to push it. We are just allowing it. Like the little kid. You let it scream and kick as long as it needs. Once it feels heard and processed, it will move on. And it moves on a lot faster when we give it its time. How do we feel?
That was great and very powerful. I never realized I had the power and ability to give those things to myself, I guess.
Mm-hmm. It's practice. It takes practice. Okay. So I'm going to post this up probably on YouTube or somewhere, and I'll send out the link so you guys can rewatch it. And I'll send it out to the people who weren't able to show up live. And then, like I said, if this is something that you guys want to do with me one-on-one, please know, like, I'm here, super here for you. I have some spots available right now. Okay. And whatever you need, if financially and otherwise, I know this has been a really hard year. Okay. And so I'm here to help. And I'm open to sitting down with you guys one-on-one. If you want to hear more about what I do, how I work with clients, I'm here for you guys. Okay. And we'll do a different workshop on that second part about now, once we've learned to process through the difficult stuff, now how do I get to the good stuff? What do I want to feel instead of grief? Okay. I want to feel excitement. I want to feel enthusiasm. I want to feel compassion. I want to feel peace. How do we build those things? Because that is also something that we can have some control over. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love you guys so much. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
Awesome. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Talk soon.